Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Pons. I'm a Master Certified Life Coach and a Soul Healer. I'm joined today with Morgan Garza. Morgan is an author, chief marketing officer, business consultant, teacher, entrepreneur, and community leader. As an embodiment of the divine feminine, she's here to empower others to become their own guru by stepping out of the darkness of fear and into the light of activated awareness. She works with entrepreneurs and companies to bring ritual to business for intentional growth. Her first book, Soul Magic, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Mystics, published by Macmillan, is now available everywhere books are sold. Morgan, welcome.
Yay, Amy, thank you.
You're inspiring me to light my Palo.
Yes, it's time. I love that we are meeting on a Wednesday. As I told you, this is Mercury Day, day of communication. Recording podcasts is the best on Wednesdays. When I had my first podcast, we recorded live on Wednesdays and live streamed to the radio. And I was like, you know what? This is the vibe. This is the way to do it.
It's so funny you say that, because when I first launched Women Making Moves, I immediately was called to record on Wednesdays. And so now I've opened it up a little bit, but it is interesting that that's the day I chose. And funny you say, everyone in my orbit right now, particularly women, are like, what in the actual fuck is happening right now? And I said, oh, glad you asked. So obviously we are in spring equinox. We started the new astrological year. We're in fiery Aries. We had a full moon in Aries. We're in eclipse season. And oh, by the way, we're in Mercury retrograde shadow. So energetically, and now that I say that all at once, it's a lot. And so I'm elated. Morgan came into my orbit probably last fall. I would say that my soul awakened. I spent 20 years in corporate America as an executive in marketing and all of the things, titles, money, all those things. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I started having a little bit of an awakening. I was like, well, something in me. It's almost like the beginning of Defying Gravity, when Alphabet starts saying something's changed, something's stirring inside me. I knew that was happening. That was feeling that. I was like, this corporate stuff. Yeah. Okay. But there was this calling, this deep calling. And now I know it's the divine feminine calling me back home. So to create the balance with the divine masculine that I've never seen in this lifetime. So I got that call around 6 years ago, and I didn't do anything with it for about 5 years. So things got real itchy and antsy and was numbing all of those amazing feelings. I don't judge myself, but I was numbing with alcohol because I didn't want to feel it. It didn't feel safe or familiar. And what we know about witchcraft, or as the historical witches of Salem, etc., and especially growing up in going to church every Sunday and all of that, it's like, even going down into Mother Earth, into Gaia, grounding, that is something I needed to overcome, because down is bad, up is good. All of that preconditioning. So in 2022, I went to Salem, Massachusetts, actually, funny enough, just for a fun getaway in October. And I was still in corporate, and it was kind of a never turning back kind of portal I entered myself into. And it was awesome. And it catapulted me into, oh, wow. That awakening was no longer an option not to, I don't want to say surrender to, but it's a little bit of that. So I share all this with you because when I got back from Salem and I was like, I'm a witch. I love this. I have magic inside me, literally. And I wanted to connect to something and some community that understood my witchy feelings and my energy and my nature and my spirit and where it's all coming from, and how we work with energy centers and how we're working with Mother Earth. I came across Saged, and I was so elated to find it, because finally it's a different language. And maybe I'll pause there and then we'll talk about how I met you specifically. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I totally align with you feeling that awakening and that call. And it's really something that people don't talk enough about, the dismantling that has to happen. Everyone's like, oh, I'm having a spiritual awakening. It's going to be like rainbows and fairies, and I'm going to be channeling deities and talking to my dead grandma and all of these like beautiful, profound things. And really, it's the fucking end. It is the end of something that you no longer align with, that you can no longer tolerate, that you're no longer going to support in your life. And it sucks. It is so hard to have a spiritual awakening, because it means that everything that you were doing before has to stop. Some relationships need to end. You need to quit your job, move. All of these things that come with this awakening are difficult. They're challenging. They hurt on a physical level. And I think that is a big deterrent for some people. They start getting these inklings, and it's like, oh, hey, maybe I do want to go in this direction and change my entire life and quit my job and divorce my partner and move across the country and do something totally different. And then the reality sets in, and it's like, do I really want to go through this pain, through this work? And so they stop there. They have like a partial awakening, but will never actually allow themselves to go all the way and see what that will do because of the reality of everything ending. It's like Godzilla coming into the city, tearing everything apart, and then the dust has to settle, and then people have to go in and rebuild everything. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's not something that just like a magical fairy comes over with a wand and is like, bippity boppity boop, your world is now different and you're a witch and everything is just aligning. It doesn't work like that. And so I think for a lot of people, it's easier to stay comfortably unhappy instead of uncomfortably delighted and inspired and aligned. And so whenever I see someone else doing the good work, it's just beautiful.
It truly is if those have heard the term dark night of the soul. And that's what I've stepped into now. So immediately when I got back, I needed to feel and be able to breathe light into what was happening. And it wasn't to me, it was for me. And to your point, I noticed pretty quickly when I got back, first of all, when I was in Salem, I sat down with a tarot card reader and he was like, "Ooh, you could be reading my cards." I'm like, "What does that mean?" I was such a cute little baby goddess. It's like such a cute little baby witch. I'm like, "What does that mean?" And he was like, "Oh, you'll find out." And so funny, he was kind of freaked me out. This is why I know a lot of people don't see psychics or tarot card readers, but he was like, "So everything's gonna change, but you'll be fine. Better than fine, better than you've ever been." I was like, "What?" You know, I'm so grateful for that because that allowed me to pull the thread a little bit to say, by the way, Morgan, everything that changes when you're experiencing a dark night of the soul or a spiritual awakening, you already know. None of that is in alignment. You already know that. So it's
not news.
No, it's not that big of a shock. It's just whether or not you give yourself permission to pull that thread a little bit. So I found myself, I'm so grateful. My husband, I joke with him, we've been married for 10 years this year. Our souls married each other because in the 3D, it doesn't always make sense, but like our souls just knew, and you're like, okay, you two do this. Everything around me, though, people, places, and things, except for him, I released.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? And I know how scary that is. I know. And I'm now helping others figure out how can you pull at that thread of returning to yourself, returning to nature, and your indigenous intuition powers without necessarily having to blow it up all at once. And I don't know if there's an easier way to do it, but it's at least having an ally like you, like me, who like knows what it can look like on the other side and reassure, even though not anyone's journey is going to look like ours specifically.
No, there's no roadmap, but the good thing is that you can see the oasis in the distance and you know that it's there. You know that it's going to happen. You know that you're going to be okay. It's going to suck, but it's going to be okay. And I love that you said everything is happening for you, not to you, because so many people get into the mindset, and I did when I was younger, like, why is this happening to me? Like, what have I done to deserve this? And that is what gets you. You're like going through your mind, replaying all these events in your life, thinking like, what did I do to deserve this? But it's not that you've been punished. It's that you're being awarded, that you are being given an opportunity, a chance, a new beginning. And if you so wish to take it, that will mean that your entire life will change for the better. And in the in-between, it's going to be a little rocky, but there's no way to say, do these steps and you'll figure it out. Like, it's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be different every day. And I've had many dark nights of the soul. It's not like you just go through one and then you're on your mountaintop in the clear, enjoying the fruits of your labor for the rest of your life. This is something that you go through a dark night of the soul, you get to the mountaintop, you think, oh, this view, the air, oh my God, I'm so happy. And then there's another valley to go down and another peak to ascend. And it's relentless in a challenging and equally liberating way. And these two things can coexist. And what I've realized this past year, and not just 2024, but like, the past 12 months, is that when you get into this mindset of I trust, I surrender, I trust, I surrender, things really just feel easier. Like the terrible things that are happening in life, I have had like the most insanely heartbreaking, grief-stricken, shockingly awful past 12 months. And I keep coming back to I trust. I trust this path. I trust that this is leading me to something better. I trust that this pain is going to turn into a purpose and going to be a tool in my belt that I can then use in the future. Yes, of course, there's those days that are just like, fuck this. Like, I'm over it. I'm done. But there's more days that are really just trusting. And I've gotten out of the habit of saying, oh, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Like, I'm not fucking fine. This is not fine. But I trust. I trust that this is happening for me. And I trust that wherever this windy ass road is going is going to be better. I just need to buckle up, have a snack, be sure to stay hydrated and rest, and just enjoy the journey, because it's not about the destination. As cliche that is, we've heard this all of our lives. It's really not about where you get to. It's about everything that happens on the way, because when you arrive, you're arriving to a whole new set of lessons. And you might have this brief moment of being like, ah, and then boom, right back into it.
What would you say to someone, and this is what I coach men and women, but primarily women who are awakening to their magic, their power. They're like, why do this? And I try to share this work when you get the call. It will keep getting louder and louder if you're not doing it, where it becomes, imagine if someone's ringing your doorbell relentlessly over and over again, and you're not getting it, you're not getting the door, or if you're not answering, or if you're not going inward to see, like, what am I supposed to know? What should I know? What are my guides trying to tell me? What is this? Why am I here? Not in a threatening manner, but it's like, if you don't, it'll just get louder and you will hurt more. It's absolutely can be agony. I probably went through 6 months of a dark night last year. What would you say to someone that would say dark night is a depression? Is it confused with depression, etc.?
I mean, I can totally understand how that could be confusing, and maybe they can coexist. Maybe a dark night of the soul is a bit of depression because what you're currently living is not making you happy.
Yeah.
And the reality of having to do something about that could be so incredibly overwhelming that you freeze instead of act. You get into this paralysis by the ideas that, I have this list. I need to do these things in order to change my life, because these are all of the things that my soul despises that are making me depressed. Like, I think they probably do coexist for a lot of people. And looking back on it, I think there are a handful of times that I'm like, damn, was I depressed? Like, I wore the same sweatsuit for like 5 days and like didn't care about much,
Yeah.
But I think you have to reach that rock bottom, because then you appreciate the ascension so much more that you're like, damn, I am never doing that again. I am never going to allow this to happen. I am not going to feed that wolf. Like, which wolf is it? Is it the wolf that wants to do all of the work and take you to a higher place, or the wolf that wants to keep you down and comfortable in the darkness? And so I think if you are feeling that state of depression in a dark night of the soul, like, that's probably pretty normal.
Yeah. And I still have days where women that I serve, they're like, Amy, you're so positive, you're so upbeat. I'm like, yeah, until the days I'm not. Like, there
Yeah.
will be
I
days
don't,
that I wake up And I start to go make my coffee, and my body and my energy is like, nope. And
Oh,
I go back to bed. I literally go
yeah.
back to bed and I cancel my day. I mean, I try not to do that if I have clients and things like that. But again, if my energy is
If
not
you
in
can't
alignment
show
with myself,
up,
how would I
mm-mm,
ever help someone else?
no.
So I honor that now, and that's really, really different. So what are we talking about? We're modern day witches.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means that from a personal level, how I define it is that I am so radically in tune with my body, with my intuition, with my desires, with my intentions that I don't allow or have time for anything that isn't aligned. And I live my life by the cycles and seasons. I live my life by the days of the week and the planetary rulings. I incorporate astrology and business. I make launches by the moon. I do shadow work in business to figure out what didn't work and what I can do better. I clean up energy leaks that feel like they're just, a black hole. And I am so interested in living a life that is going against what everybody else is doing. And I've always been like this. And I see everyone going in this direction, and then I'm like, what the fuck is that hysteria? Like, no, thank you. I mean, like, even when I was a little girl and like the boy band craze, I like would watch all of these like hysterical girls carrying around NSYNC and Backstreet Boys CDs around school and wearing shirts. And I was just like, no, thanks. Like, I didn't mind the music, but it was just like, everything around it that I was like, I need to march to the beat of my own drum. Like, and in Way of the Witch, you know this, like we do things in community. It's a coven. We share and do all these things differently. But I think what I really subscribe to is this personal experience that is solitary in the sense that I listen and act, and I am so deeply in tune with myself and with nature that I just allow this flow to happen, and I've canceled hustle culture in my life, and I'm really diving into not just the divine feminine, but the balance between the feminine and the masculine. And if the feminine doesn't have a container, she is chaos. And if the masculine doesn't have creativity and flow, he is too rigid and he breaks. And so I've always said, and in business as well, this masculine structure that is the chalice, that is the physical part of life, holds and is the container for this feminine flow. So as a modern witch, I incorporate that into my daily life. But that being said, I don't make it my all day. I very firmly have one foot in the magical and one foot in the practical. I want to be able to both and everything, because I have met so many women in particular who are so far out there, so disconnected from the 3D that they can't make money, they can't find good relationships, they don't treat themselves well, they are so out of balance because they don't want to be here in the 3D, and they spend all their time in the 5D channeling, doing all these other things. And it's like, you got bills, babe. I don't care if you want to be this like star seed, whatever the fuck. Like, you need to pay your bills and you need to eat food that is going to nourish your body. Like, we can so often forget that we have this physical form that also has to be nourished, and spend so much time in the spirit that we forget about that. And so being a modern witch is being in balance and being able to both and things with boundaries that make me feel good, and other practices that nourish my soul when the reality of the world that we live in dims my light.
I probably could have said the exact same things you did about what it means for me to be. I get the question a lot. What does it mean to be a modern day witch? What does it mean that you're in touch with spirit or spirituality? Because in the past, that's meant religion. And that's
Mhm.
mainstream religion is not something that I resonate with, although I will honor and suggest, I'll say, God, source, creator, universe, whomever you connect to with your higher self, higher purpose. But for me, what that's meant is that, and interestingly, back to your story, I was so different. I have always been clairsentient, claircognizant. And
Mhm.
so as a child, as a small little girl, when I sensed, literally felt energy that was off, my body would just ache and hurt so bad. And so I never knew what that meant, obviously. And then to feel safe, I did go mainstream for so long because that's what I thought I should do. And for me, what it's meant to be an awakening is considering that there's more than one right way to do life. And oh, by the way, understanding that there is literally energy around us that we can't see, hear, touch, but we sense and we experience. I finally started to allow myself to bring that back in after 35 years. So I was the boy band follower. When I say I went mainstream, I was doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing. And I always knew I'm obsessed with the paranormal and energy that we can't quite grasp in the physical, in the 3D. And so now I've been able to have this runway to explore and to experience. The very first moon ceremony I ever went to was through Sage, and it was incredible. I was like, whoa, this is mind blowing because I have always felt attuned to the moon. So my entire spirituality, witchiness, it is being finally attuned, not only inward, but also to nature, to glimmers, to joy, to spiritual connection. I get pings and downloads all the time. And now I have a conduit to figure out who's talking to, like, what's going on. And something else you said that it was really brilliant that I was able to connect for myself is that, like, I'd live in the cosmos if I could. And that has been an interesting experience for me because I find myself rejecting the masculine a lot. And so I too am really interested in the balance. The reason I reject it is because we're in the toxic masculine now.
Yeah.
This is
It's a
only,
trauma response. You're
yeah.
coping. Yeah.
So I try to remind
Protection.
myself. Yeah, I try to remind myself. Anyway, I think we're seeing such similar things, but I really honor that you've had this your entire life, this gift, this ability, this knowing, this inner knowing and trust, because that's not ever what we were taught. We, as a broad mass of women in particular.
Yeah. I mean, I have had this my entire life, but I definitely did go mainstream through, middle school, high school, and then part of college. But that wasn't aligning. And I always knew I was different. And I always knew that, like, yeah, I'm partying all the time and like doing this hot girl shit, but like that doesn't fulfill me, and it's really just distracting me from the suffocating ideas that I have about this life that are just not aligning. And it wasn't until I was 22 that I had my like spiritual awakening out of that when I survived a terrorist attack in India that I was like, okay, I am meant to experience this terribly tragic event and live and do something with my life that is in benefit. Like, to be that young and have this profound realization that I was not only meant to experience this, but to live through it and to do something about it. I didn't go forth with this purpose, like, I have to change the world. But like when I was little, people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I would always say a teacher, but I didn't really understand that, like, I didn't want to teach kids. So I was like, I don't get it. I don't know. But my second thing would be, I just want to help people. And now I am teaching and I am helping people. And I had this vision when I was little that I was like a book cover, and I was like, I'm going to be known for like writing something, because I was a prolific reader. I have a box of journals from the time that I was 8. Like, I've always written and I've always read. But I went to sleep for decades until I was rudely awakened by an incredibly traumatic event at the age of 22. And from then, it was a simultaneous raveling and unraveling. I was unraveling the life that I'd built, the beliefs that I had, so many things that defined who I was, religion, and re-raveling this new life that I knew there was a greater purpose. I knew that I was here to do something more than just drink my life away and work in a job that literally like stole my light. And it wasn't until probably about, well, I guess when I was late 20s, I just worked to travel. I would work different jobs in marketing and fashion and whatever it was. And then I would quit and I would go travel. And it wasn't until I moved to Spain at 27 that I really was like, I can't go back to doing what I was doing before. Like, whenever I do move back to the States, which was 2 years later, I'm not going back into marketing, even though I did, but now I love it because I've redefined it for myself. But I was like, I'm going to do something different. So that's when I started writing. I got my first paid writing gig when I lived in Spain. And I started creating this life that meant more to me, that came from such a deep place of alignment. I think it was easy because I was young, I was on my own, I didn't have anybody else to care for or worry about. So if you're going through this and you're later in life, like maybe just create space for yourself to have this permission to explore, right? But now, I mean, over 10 years since I moved to Spain, like I am living the life of my dreams because I have never deviated from what makes me happy. And there were years that I made no money. I mean, like a credit card company is calling me. I have student loans, like just couldn't make ends meet. And I was like, this isn't the way. Like, I know that what I'm doing is going to lead to something that is going to create financial freedom. But at the time, it just wasn't clear. So it's like these dark nights of the soul, when you're in them, they're difficult. But if you just stay uncomfortable for as long as possible, you'll realize that where you're going is so much better than where you're leaving. And this uncomfortable feeling is going to turn into elation because you are going to have stayed true to yourself and not done something just for a paycheck or just because it's comfortable, just because it's what society expects of you.
And I think that's the hardest part, especially for people who so badly want to explore and do something on their own, and they feel genuinely boxed in by the paycheck. To your point, it's like carving out even 5 minutes a day to explore a little bit or pull that thread, no matter what it is. I will say this, as a new business owner, a little over a year in business, the energy that you put out through your own personal or through your business, that's what you get, that's what you're calling back in. So being really, really intentional. That's the other part of my spirituality, my intentionality, my witchiness, is that it's both the simplest thing you can do and the hardest thing that you can do is to manifest that intentions and really follow through on that, to call in what you're really, really looking for or trying to honor about your purpose. And it's not as easy being like, hey, you're putting out bad energy. Stop that. Okay. So helping people get back into alignment. And for me, what it is, it's like being grateful for the abundance I've been able to achieve through my aligned purpose and also working in the alignment energy. And it's a both and for me as well. And I'm not necessarily saying, there's times where I'm like, why aren't I getting more clients? Why aren't I doing this? And it's like just trust and flow. But how do you do that when the bills are due, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's hard. But I think there's the energetics of everything, right? There's energetics of Instagram, there's energetics of email marketing, there's energetics of website design. Like what you hate hates you.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
If you hate social media is going to hate you and it's not going to work for you, right? There is energy behind every
Yeah.
post, every reel, every story, everything you put out there. If you are like, fuck yes, people are going to be like, damn, I want some of that. But if you're like, I don't know, whatever, just put this thing up for the day and check the box and I filled the square, right? It's not going to give back to you. So what you hate hates you. And if you remember that in business and you remember that in client acquisition and follow up and follow through and all of these things, like what you don't want to do doesn't give a shit if you don't do it, right? But what you want to work wants to give back to you.
Yeah.
There's this reciprocity and this energetics of life, of everything. And I
Right.
think what happens to a lot of people in business, especially in the early days, is that it's so hard. You're wondering, why did I do this? Why did I give up that consistent paycheck, even for that soul-sucking job, for something that I'm eating ramen and questioning my life choices? But when you get to this place of like, no matter what, I'm going to make this work and I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to keep trying different avenues and you incorporate play. Like what happens is that people get so serious. You get so fear-based, you get so lack-minded that you're thinking, Why isn't money coming in? Why can't I get clients? Why can't I pay my bills? Why doesn't Instagram work for me? Or Instagram just doesn't work for, like, you get these beliefs and then the universe is like, okay, Instagram doesn't work for you. All right, noted. And we forget to play, we forget to enjoy, we forget to be in joy with what we're creating. And what so many people forget is, like, you did this because you love it. You went into this thing because you love it and you wanted to make it your life. So pull yourself out from that rock that is like so heavy and bogging you down, and remember why you started and bring play into it. Like, there is nothing wrong with scheduling an hour a day of play in your schedule and making it mandatory. Go play basketball in the park. Go for a walk and do a cartwheel in the park. Go do some somersaults in your living room. Like, dance and put a good song on that makes you really happy. Play with your kids if you have kids and do something that just makes you feel silly and gets you out of this funk, because funk begets funk. Like, if you are just always waking up like, ugh, this isn't working for me, it's not going to work for you. But if you get up and you're like, okay, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to be creative and I'm going to stop to play, because if I take life so seriously all the fucking time, it's never going to go anywhere. And I'm always going to be disappointed. And I'm going to get into this place where I do give up because it's not working. And I'm not working it in the way that I thought I should or needed to, or maybe I don't know what to do. And so you quit, you go back to the job, you succumb to the corporate life or whatever it was that was sucking your soul before for that consistent paycheck, and you stay comfortably unhappy.
Mhm. Speaking of Instagram, I want to go to a recent post that you made that is do not manifest an eclipse this season. Why? Tell us.
Okay, so this is always a controversy on the gram, and I love stirring the pot, especially on Instagram, because everyone's out there like, you need to do this and you need to do that. And like, come on, y'all. The reason why we pause manifestation for the very temporary eclipse season, which is now also overlapping with Mercury retrograde, is because eclipses have a journey. They are going to do what they are going to do regardless of what candles you're lighting and what moon rituals you're doing. They don't give a shit. So it's like, don't waste your time and energy, because eclipses shorten timelines. They're like a wormhole from this reality to the next. And what you think is like the how to get to that next place evaporates, and it happens now. And you might be spending all of your time trying to manifest something that you want, but the universe is going to deliver you what you need. And that might not always look like what you want at first. But then if you give it time and you settle in and you trust and surrender, you're going to be like, holy shit, I actually really do love this. And so we just pause manifesting, because you're spinning your wheels. You're just going to be disappointed, and you're putting energy into a direction that might not be best for you. And it's not like the universe knows better than you, right? We still have free will. We're humans, whatever, whatever. And what is happening is already in motion. So you might as well just let it play out and rest and stop trying and just be. For example, the eclipse season that happened last year in April, I unexpectedly, with my husband, bought a home in Phoenix. We lived in Denver. We had no intention of buying a home in Phoenix. We came down to visit my parents. His parents are in Tucson. It was like two birds, one stone kind of trip. And we bought a fucking house. And I was like, I don't want to live in Phoenix. Like, I grew up here. I haven't lived here for decades. Like, this is not what I want. Why are we doing this? Buying this $800,000 house for no reason. Like, I do not get it, but it happened so quickly. And the way that I found the house, I've never been more certain about anything in my life. I saw it on a black and white piece of paper. My dad is my realtor that he printed out from MLS. We didn't even go on Zillow. I don't even know why, but he printed this out and was like, just, like, here's a stack of houses that like fit your description. We wanted to move from Denver and we were like, fuck it, let's just look. But we had no intention of actually buying something. So I'm thumbing through this stack of papers. I pull this house out. It's just a picture of the kitchen. It doesn't even, like, you don't even see the outside. And I was like, this is the one, let's go see it. My parents are both like, what? Like, what do you mean? I was like, this is the one. Like, let's go see it. We went to see it the next day. 24 hours later, we were pre-approved for a loan. 48 hours later, we put an offer in that got accepted. And my husband and I were both like rattled. Like, what have we done? Like, almost immediate regret and fear and just holy shitness. Turns out this is our dream home. I mean, for now, I don't have a forever home. I'm never going to put that pressure on myself, but like this for right now is like perfection. Turns out my dad has pancreatic cancer. He gets diagnosed 3 months after we move in June. I'm 5 minutes away from my parents. I am now caring for my father, very close to him to help out with anything. My mom 3 months after that, spent almost a month in the hospital after a botched surgery, had to have emergency hysterectomy, all of these things that I'm like, thank the universe that I trusted and I surrendered because this was not at all what I wanted. But it turns out it's exactly what I needed. And now it's what I wanted, to be this close to my parents, to be in this beautiful home and to be able to show up for my family in this way is absolutely what I want. And that is just one of the many examples of eclipse season magic that you really just have to not manifest and just see what happens. And yes, there's still action that you have to take. You're not just sitting on your couch eating a bag of chips being like, all right, eclipse, like show me what's up. Like you still got to get out there and do something, like put an offer in on a house or fill out millions of pages of paperwork for your loan, like whatever it may be. You still have to take action. So it's not a do nothing period. It's a trust and surrender and allow period.
Thank you for explaining that because I manifested on full moon and I was like, huh, interesting. And then I saw your post. I was like, oh gosh. But no, it's fascinating because I'm in this space where I do things for my business, but I also, the way that the elements of Unlock the Magic came to be was kind of beautifully unfolding in a way that I don't know that I would have been able to architect that. So
yeah,
that is my physical evidence that I co-conspire, I co-create with the universe when I am in a state of allow.
mm-hmm.
And I actually get excited now. So it's like, wow. And I'm not suggesting that fear, scarcity, lack never comes in. What I do suggest is when those come in, I do, whether it be a body scan, I go inward, I see where the energy is kind of sticking or like, what is that? Who's that coming from? Or where's that coming from? And I do some work around how to move that forward or how to bear witness of what's being able to unfold so far. And I find myself now, there's something I say that my clients both hate and love. I'll say, whatever is happening in your higher purpose has already happened. The how and why and the when is none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what the actual fuck? I was like,
Yeah.
oh, seriously. And the point is, detach yourself from that outcome. Like, stop over architecting, over engineering life because it's almost like you're telling the universe, I know better.
Yeah.
No, you don't, boo.
You don't, boo.
Hang on. And if you let it flow, to your point, it beautifully unfolds in something that you could have never dreamt of.
No. Or
Like,
asked for.
asked for. My last year in corporate, I was in the most psychologically abusive workplace. And while I am not grateful for the abuse and that experience, I am grateful for my guides to put those experiences. They know me, that it was going to have to take something pretty big to poke me awake finally. They knew it was going to take something pretty intense. So that was the experience. And while again, I'm not grateful for the abuse, I'm grateful for the experience to have unfolded so that I took a leap into myself and creating this business. And I do get really excited. And some folks do look at me, they're like, you are just everything rose-colored glasses now. I'm like, call it what you want. That's yours, not mine. But what I do know is that I'm able to see the glimmers again in life, the natural beauty, the ways that my guides in the universe are talking to me all day, every day through nature. My ears will ring something through all these ways that I know they're here and I'm divinely protected and guided. It's fucking gorgeous. And I can't imagine not walking in this light.
I know. And when you are doing something that requires so much energy to endure, all of those signs go away because you aren't paying attention. It's not that they're not there, it's that you can't perceive them.
Right. I have clients, they're like, my guides never talk to me. I was like, is that true? And they're like, well, now that you mention it, the other day, I'm like, mm-hmm. So they're ringing your doorbell, and it's just a matter of answering it
Yeah.
and what feels good to you. So, Morgan, we could go on for hours. This has been awesome. What would you say to those, and I'm sure you have a similar stance that I do. I don't extend my energy to anyone that can't hear me. So, do you engage anyone that's like, that's hogwash, that's woo, that's la la, like all the things we've been saying,
No.
right?
Nope, because I'm not going to change their mind. I don't give a fuck about their opinion. I know that my life is as magical and as abundant and as successful as it is because of the things that I have done.
Yeah,
If they don't believe it, that's fine. It is not my job to shake people awake.
you're
The
right.
ones who are awakened, I'm like, psst.
Hey, we're
But the
here.
ones who are asleep, like, boo boo, you look real happy over there. You go on ahead with your bad self and you stay away from my happiness because you are not going to plug into my shit. And I'm
No.
not going to feed you with my own energy. And any bad intentions that you have to knock me off of my pedestal, my high horse, my mountaintop are going to be fruitless because you are wasting your own energy. And if you don't believe, that's fine. I am not going to spend mine trying to convince you that this is real and it's true and it's available to everyone.
Right? It's pretty amazing to me when someone's like, I don't believe in that. I was like, okay, oh,
Okay.
that's great. I joke with you, and you say this about Instagram. You like to stir the pot. I like to stir the pot on LinkedIn, where I see a lot of people who are woo curious and they're so locked in to the corporate box, let's say.
Mm.
And so I like to poke the bear over there. And what I'm really doing is I'm helping people self-select into or out of my orbit. Morgan, where do we find you?
Well, you've mentioned Sage. So that is the app that I am the head witch of and do marketing for. You can find that on all of the app stores, just Saged, Saged. And then the Instagram for that is Saged app, and that is across all socials. You can also find me personally at morgangarza.com and on socials at mogars.
I have to tell you, the subscription boxes for Sage are my absolute favorite.
Yay!
I get them every month, and I'm like, I unpacked it during a community, kind of a coven the other day, and I was just showing people, and they're like, what is this? I'm like, Sage, go check it out. Anyway, I love it. So it's been such
Yay.
a light in my life and my witchy journey.
That makes me so happy.
Closing remarks as we start to wrap up.
Love, light, and black holes.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks, Amy.